Welcome back to the Hot 7 TV special feature Reflections. The Police Welfare Association says it is looking for clarity with regard to the impacts report come 2020. The president of the Police Welfare Association, Travis Chico, spoke with Hot 7 News and says though many issues were resolved in 2019, the looming case of extrajudicial killings continues to malign the reputation of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
President of the Police Welfare Association, Travis Chico, says 2019 has been an interesting year for the association. He notes steps were taken in the right direction with government negotiations of collective agreements, transfer policies for traveling allowances, and training of members. However, Chico says the dark cloud that continues to follow the PWA and members of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force is the impacts report. Chico says the PWA will be actively seeking resolve to the matter in 2020.
I think as a welfare association, we did not do enough as it pertains to the impacts. The matters of extrajudicial killings against the police officers. I think that we've been a bit very passive as it pertains to applying the necessary pressure. And I say that under the backdrop that we've listened to certain statements being made by various persons in authority in terms of as it concerns the men or the men and women who have been implicated. At this point, in 2020, the Welfare Association will not come into 2020 sitting back and allowing the status quo to continue. We've seen the persons who need to speak as it pertains to impacts have not spoken to this date. We've heard nothing from the Director of Public Prosecutions on the impact investigations, where they are. We know that it's been a year since these guys were hauled in, questioned, interviewed as suspects or under suspicion for being involved in committing murders. We've heard nothing after an entire year. I would want to believe that if you bring in somebody for questioning, it would have said that you would have amassed a certain amount of evidence that you are getting prepared to charge. We saw nothing like that happening, and I can guarantee you that we continue to speak with the attorneys. And moving in 2020, if our voice is not strong enough, we will get our attorneys to make statements that are relevant to this as it pertains to impacts.
Alexander says in the grand scheme of things, ICA may be small, but it is mighty in combating internal and external factors working against the positive movement.
Again, we have the issues of the special police constables. We continue to say that these men are doing the very same job as any regular police officer, but there's a disparity in the salary. These men are at grade 4. They cannot get promoted because of the legislation as it governs special police constables. They can get upgraded. But you have 300 and something SPCs in a police force to this date. Some of them are 20, 25 years service. We're looking at security at tenure. What do we do? How do we ensure that these men, the bread and the security is sure? I personally believe that any SPC who has served for more than 3 consecutive 3-year periods, that's what the law says, so that's 9 years. As soon as you get to 9 to 12 years, you should be made a regular constable. However, we also encourage these men that if there is any educational or professional certification courses that they must do in order to bring themselves up to par with the organization, we encourage them to make use of the various avenues that the Welfare Association, through Monroe College, through the University of the West Indies, have actually secured a number of incentives for them.
Moreover, the president of the PWA says major efforts will be placed on creating a plan that regulates the work hours of policemen and women.
In 2020, we expect to see a number of things being regularized. Our duties of work, we expect to see that police officers are working 40-hour tours. The study in, the studies out system, this archaic system of working, cannot continue in 2020. In 2020, we again continue to advocate for police through the government, for duty-free concessions for the police as it pertains to transportation, to go to work, to come back, to also use the vehicles to assist in quick response to crimes and other activities. So in 2020, it's going to be, we believe 2020, based on our plans from last year, on our calendar of activities, we believe 2020 should be a big year for us. We believe 2020 should be a year where we encourage our members to grow. So you should hear the seminars on achieving higher education, seminars on financial security, and a number of other seminars. We continue to discuss with Dr. Edwin Powell, a consultant from Washington, D.C., in terms of certain things that he can assist us in doing. So that's where we are. And we intend to see a number of big movements for the association come 2020.
Furthermore, Alexander says the issue of reparations should be addressed by the powers that be. He says the current move of the world is making provisions to provide nations with relief. However, he has not noticed St. Lucia making claims to these benefits.
President for the Ionola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, Aaron Alexander, says his own reflections on 2019 reveal that some major milestones were hit and some significant fumbles were made. The outspoken leader says ICA will continue to advocate and defend human rights, as well as highlight the many injustices faced by the Rastafarian community. Alexander says there is still a long road ahead for the organization and the governance of St. Lucia. As he reflects on 2019 and looks towards the future, Alexander remains hopeful that all good things will come to fruition for the nation.
According to President for the Ionola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, Aaron Alexander, there is a long road ahead for the island of St. Lucia. Alexander gives thought to the year past and notes the strides that ICA has made on various fronts. However, he ponders the direction that is ahead for the organization tasked with creating the advancement of Rastafarians.
I think one of the main things for the Rastafari Council in particular, ICA, is that we've been sort of dormant for quite some time, and we just got revamped, a new breath of life, a new lease on life, etc. in June of this year, 2019, when we convened our biannual general meeting and a new executive came into office. And that was a great achievement for us in June. So coming from that now, that sort of start propelling the Rastafari community again into action, you know, because this organization is set towards defending human rights. You know, this organization is about social justice and social issues. You know, when it comes to issues of the cannabis and etc., you know, the marijuana issue, these are some of the issues that this organization seeks to champion. So we remain very confident, you know, in the victory of good over evil.
Alexander says in the grand scheme of things, ICA may be small, but it is mighty in combating internal and external factors working against the positive movement.
So we as a minority group, as a small group, we still continue to fight that battle. And we know that with truth and justice and right on our side, even in this time, David will still defeat Goliath. The Goliath being the governments of international and even local, who seem to be so powerful, etc. And they're going to come to their knees, because that is the age we enter in, an age of enlightenment where people know better and people, you know, are no longer going to be quiet. You know, we're going to see an age where people will not be afraid to protest and to hold governments to account. You know, and this is some of the things that the council stands for. We want to ensure good governance. We don't care who's in power, but you know, you must obey the will of the people. You know, so we want to continue in that vein. We went down that road this year. We want to continue in the years to come.
On the long-standing issue of decriminalization and legalization of cannabis, Alexander begs the powers that be to take a look at the direction of the rest of the world and not remain trapped in times past.
We've been speaking about the cannabis issue for eons, you know. For decades, many years, we've been talking about the cannabis issue, the need to legalize cannabis for many different reasons. For us, it has never been about money. It has always been about our basic fundamental human right of our sacrament as a faith-based group. You know, I don't like to use the word religion, as a faith, you know. As an African faith Rastafari community, we've always spoken about our rights to use our herb as our sacrament, and we've seen this is the move now of the world towards legalization and in some cases decriminalization. So we are thankful for those things as well. When it comes to the education of our people, more African history in our schools, we are yet to see that component of things taking root. We've had ministers of education after minister We've had different administrations, and this is something that still remains a sore point for us as Rastafari. We would like to see more African history introduced into the school curriculum.
Furthermore, Alexander says the issue of reparations should be addressed by the powers that be. He says the current move of the world is making provisions to provide nations with relief. However, he has not noticed St. Lucia making claims to these benefits.
You have the decade of persons of African descent, where the United Nations declared 2015 to 2024 as a decade for people of African descent, for empowering them. Government's supposed to be submitting proposals to the UN for funding to help alleviate poverty amongst people, you know, in the Caribbean countries, especially African descendants. And we know places like Ancillary and Kanawi, these places are said to be below the poverty belt. And yet still, our High Commission in America, these people are not making any moves towards sending proposals to the UN to tap into funding available to assist communities like Anslawi and Kanawi. So all these kind of things, you know, is vexing issues for us as a Rastafari community, as a conscious people society. We've seen there are so many things that can be done for that decade of people of African descent. Our Minister of Culture, our Fortuna Bell Rose, Spider, Minister of Equity, none of these people are even coming out and address these issues as if, well, they're not even aware of those things. And I'm asking myself, what is wrong with our leaders? What is going on in their heads? You know,
Alexander says ICA will continue to champion the cause of the masses. He says improvements across various sectors like better healthcare, effective education, and employment must be issues that stay on the front burner of whichever administration is in power. He closes off his statements by saying the Rastafarian community will not cower or be intimidated politically or by big structure of government. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Thank you, Solange. The Traffic Department is urging the motoring public to refrain from drinking and driving, especially during the New Year's holidays. The department takes a look back at some key issues faced during 2019 and share warm messages to the public ahead of 2020.
End-of-year activities provide the opportunity to go out and have a festive time. Many engage in partying during New Year's celebrations. The heavy consumption of alcohol during the Christmas and New Year's period has not missed the Traffic Department of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Acting Sergeant of Police Operations Miguel Lancico urges citizens to refrain from the practice of drinking and driving.
The Traffic Department has realized that over the past Christmas season we had an upsurge in serious and even one fatality. We are asking the motoring public to exercise caution while driving this holiday season. If you intend to drink, please don't drive. Get yourself a designated driver. We are asking drivers to drive defensively, drive for others, and try as much to obey the traffic rules. The Traffic Department will be out in full force to ensure safety during this holiday season.
Lancico says this is not the only issue that has reared its ugly head in the month of December. The ill-fated accident in Miku that left the rider of a motorcycle dead and 2 pedestrians in the hospital has warranted strict adherence to safety codes for motorcycle riders.
We realize there's a general concern about motorcycle riders not riding safely. They ride very dangerously and they don't have the appropriate care. We are appealing to motorcycle riders to please exercise caution when riding. Ride for yourself and other road users. Look how we had the unfortunate incident with the pedestrians in the village of Miku. We ask them to exercise safety, ride for yourself and others.
Moreover, Lancico sought to address a disturbing trend that has been noticed by the Traffic Department in the form of driving with expired license and lack of insurance. He says there needs to be an immediate cease and desist of this practice. Insert clip.
We realize there's an upsurge in persons driving without valid driver's license, driving without insurance. We have escalated our patrols to try and curb that, but I mean, as anything, we are limited, and we're trying to urge the public, please, if you know that you don't have the requisite documentation or your insurance is not paid, to desist from driving.
The men and women of the Traffic Department also had a special message to deliver to pedestrians and the motoring public.
On behalf of the Traffic Department, we would like to wish all St. Lucians a happy and prosperous New Year.
Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
The governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Timothy Antoine, has projected 3.5% growth for the year 2020. He says as far as the currency union is concerned, 2020 holds immense promise despite challenges of 2019.
As we look ahead to 2020, an exciting year beckons. 3 of the bank's key priorities will be financial stability, digital transformation, and climate resilience. At this moment, we project growth for our currency union of about 3.5%.
He reflected on the highs and the lows of 2019.
As we reflect on the year soon ending, we readily acknowledge the many challenges facing our currency union. These include the existential threat of our climate crisis, the ongoing issue of the loss of corresponding banking relations, and high unemployment among our youth. These challenges notwithstanding, we are thankful that our beautiful isles were spared this past hurricane season. This year, our currency union is set to record solid growth of about 3.3%. Throughout the year, we vigorously pursued our transformation agenda, including inter alia, the launch of the first phase of our digital currency pilot, the launch of polymer notes, and the completion of phase 1 of our campus greening program, our solar carport.
The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB, was established in October 1983. It is the monetary authority for a group of 8 island economies. They are Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, the Commonwealth of Dominica, Grenada, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is the Hot 7 TV special feature Reflections. Stay with us. Sports and weather are coming up after the break.